Hello, brother sewing and crafting family. Angela Wolf here. Another week and another great lesson for you. So welcome, say hi. We're so excited you're here. And we are streaming on Brother Sewing and Crafting YouTube and Facebook pages. So whatever your flavor is, that's the best place to watch. All right, today we've got Kathy Stipe. And for all of you that have watched her for all these years on the live show, do you know what she's famous for? I'll give you a second because I know you'll guess it. Recipes, of course, and we're not talking about cooking. So Kathy Stipe is here. She's got a lot of fun things to show us, and she's going to be featuring the Avenir too. So I'll pop in and say hi, Kathy. How are you? It's welcome to the sewing party.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing fabulous, and I waited for just a moment because we're live in the chat today, but everyone knows you're famous for the beautiful recipes, and I like your recipes because I don't burn them.
Correct. And they don't involve a stove.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's my kind of recipes. So I am so excited for today. And you're going to be featuring some really cool things. I'm very excited for this. Again, we are live in the chat today. So leave your comments, questions. Even if you're watching the replay, Brother Social will get in there and answer those. And if they don't know them, they send them over to us. So Kathy, what do you got for me? I saw one little sneak peek I'm pretty excited about.
Well, today is all about my design center. And my design center to me is my little sandbox that I like to play in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over a few of the different things that you can do with my design center. And I'll give you some recipes. And what my recipes are for those who are new is I've taken some of the pattern fills or decorative fills in my design center and combine them so your creativity is limitless if you just sit down and play.
It really is. And I remember, well, many times, but I can remember maybe 2 holidays ago during the Christmas season, you had so many recipes that you could fill a whole book with it. And everybody was like, how do we go back and watch those replays? So by the way, go back on Brother Sew's YouTube channel, look up Kathy Stipe and you'll find them. So, but now we have new ones. I can't wait to see this.
All right. I'm ready to show you. Let me switch my camera over to my machine.
All right.
We'll get started.
While she's switching, again, leave your comments below. Brother Educator Kathy Stipe is with us. We're going to be playing on the Avenir, but I know many of you have the Luminaire and some other great machines. So if you have my design center, you'll be able to do some of this. All right, Kathy, back to you. I see your screen perfectly.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my design center. And in my design center, I have the ability to take clip art. You can see that little picture of a girl that I printed out. There's many places on the internet that you can get free coloring pages. You could take a coloring book. You could also use some of your own drawings if you want. And I turned her into stitches.
Oh my goodness, look at how cute that is.
So one of the things that I want to eventually do with this one, I did all of the stitching with black thread because I want to go in with some watercolors and try and paint some of these areas in so it's multimedia type art. But to get to this point, I'm going to show you what we need to do. So on my screen in the upper left right hand corner, I have an icon that looks like a square with a leaf. So I'm going to select that. And when I do, I have 3 choices. I can do an image scan, a line design, or an illustration design. But because this is a black and white line art drawing, I'm going to choose line design. I could also select an image from a USB, either in JPEG, BMP, or PNG, and bring it in that way. But mine is on my scanning frame. So I'm just going to touch scan. And it gives me a little message that the scanning frame is going to move. So let me change to this view. You can see I've got my scanning frame already on where I would put my embroidery hoop. But when I press OK, it's going to scan and take a picture of what is on the frame. I know it's kind of hard to see with the lights, but I turned the lights off in settings. But in order for it to capture what I have on that scanning frame, the lights needed to be turned back on. So it automatically did that for me.
You know, that new Avenir is so quiet. I keep talking about that for as far as the embroidery side, but even the scanning side, your camera's right there. We can hardly hear it. Actually, we can't hear it at all.
So I was sewing on another machine recently, and I thought to myself, a matter of fact, I said to my husband, "Oh, I really love my Avenir because it is so much quieter." So we'll go back to my machine screen again, and you'll see now that I have that image that it captured up on my screen. One of the things that I like to do when I have a lot of small lines is I like to go ahead and go down to the bottom and change that to a running stitch, because ultimately that's what I want the whole thing to be. And I'm going to change it to a dark pink so we can really see once we get to the next step that it has changed. So what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm cropping out the magnets that I had used to hold the paper to the frame. If I could not do that by cropping it out, there are tools. I have an eraser tool that I could use to get rid of that unwanted lines. But this worked out, so I'm going to say okay. And this screen is giving me what it's going to look like. And that looks pretty good. You can change your grayscale detection up or down to try and get a better rendering. But I think where I had it in the center, which is the default, looks really good. So we're going to go with that. And there is my image, and I'm going to set it. So there it is on my page. And now I can go in and what I want to do is I want to get rid of the background, the original scan. So I just use this little leaf. There's one that's light and one that's dark. And I basically hid my original scan image. So you can see she's all pink. Let's magnify her a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. If there were areas that I wanted to get rid of, I'm going to try using my stylus. I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab the eraser, and I have a choice of a round or a square eraser. It's just personal preference, but I always take the eraser size down a little bit whenever I've got this enlarged. So I say okay, and then I can come in here. Maybe I want to get rid of some of these little bubbles that are up here in the top, and I can just erase that. But the nice thing about it is I can zoom into 1600%, use this hand key right here, and that's my pan so that I can move about the design and see really up close if there's any areas that need to be fixed. There's some areas in here that I would probably get rid of. Maybe this little bit right there. But then I can just keep on panning so that I can see. Once I get everything the way that I want it, then I can go on and set the stitch properties. But let's say I wanted to fill in an area. So maybe I wanted to fill in some of the leaves with the green. And I'm going to blow this up at least to 200% so that I can take my paint bucket and fill in a couple of these leaves.
Oh,
Now,
Kat, I have to say, I know people watching are going to be like, that is so cool. How does it make that shape? Because it's a closed shape. So will you explain that just a little bit to them? Because I always get this comment where somebody says, I touched in the shape and the whole screen turned, say, green or whatever. Will you give them a little tip on that while you're showing this?
okay. So I'm going to blow it up a little bit more. I'm going to go to 800. I'm going to hit my undo. So I've taken out the color in that last leaf. If for some reason, and I'm going to do this purposely, I'm going to get an eraser and I'm going to make a break in that line. If I try to fill in that area, that leaf, now see how it fills in the other area as well? I'll pan over. It's because I had that break in the line. So a closed shape means that there is a line all the way around. If you happen to get the overflow into another area or the whole hoop fills with that, it's because you have a break in your line. Luckily, I've got undo, so I can go back and put it in. If not, I could take my drawing tool up here if I had a break, and I'm just picking the one where I can draw from one area to the other without it connecting. And I would just draw on there and make a shape. It's kind of hard to do this from an angle. Let's see. So I could close in this little area right here if I wanted to fill that with some of that green as well. So that's closed shapes and open shapes.
That's awesome, because I know every time that even I ever show it, you show it, anybody talks about my design center, that is one of the most important parts if they're trying to just quickly add those fills. So thanks for adding that to your tutorial, because I know it's going to be helpful for anybody that has my design center.
It is. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in that leaf. And then at the bottom of the screen in the lower right-hand corner, I have the word next. I'm going to touch that. This is where I set all of my stitch properties. So you notice I've got 3 green leaves that are all filled in. If I want them to have the same properties, I can link them together. And I know you can't see it on your screen, but on the machine screen, I can see that there's red bounding boxes around all 3 of those leaves. So I can go in and I can change the direction of the stitch by choosing manual. So if I wanted those to have a different stitch angle, I can also change the density if I don't want them quite as dense. I can change that. The next item is the pull compensation. I have a tendency to leave that at default, so I'm going to say okay with that. The last one is important. It's the undersewing. Undersewing to me is like the foundation that the house was built upon. So I always, for especially larger filled areas, like to turn my undersewing on. So once I get that the way I want it, then if I touch set, then it's saying that it's converted to an embroidery pattern. I'm going to touch cancel because we have other stitch types that we can adjust. The next one is all of the running stitches, which is the stitch that I said at the very beginning. Again, I can link all of those together. I can change the run pitch to make the stitch longer or shorter. I pretty much leave it at default. So I'll just say okay. So with the line or the stitch length, I usually just leave it at default. So everything is the way I want it. So I'm just going to touch set. This is where it says convert to the embroidery pattern, and my design center will be exited. So this is what I like to think of as my point of no return. I will hit cancel, and I'm going to save that to my machine's memory. I suggest you do that periodically if you've got a very complex design that you're trying to build, because once you hit set and go to embroidery, you cannot go back and edit that design in my design center any longer, because now it is an embroidery stitch file. So this is the little girl that I stitched out that I showed you earlier. So there she is, all stitched out.
That is so cute. Oh my goodness.
So there's so many other things that you can do with my design center. So I'm going to go back home and get rid of my cute little girl because I know I have her already saved. And let's go back. Oh, we'll cancel that. I'm going to go grab an embroidery design. Let's go into botanicals and let me grab. There was a real pretty flower that oh no, it wasn't. It was the lemons. So under edit, now that I have my lemons up or my design up, I've got this, I call it my little instant quilting category. If I touch that, it's going to put stippling all around. That's the one that comes up by default. I can change my hoop size if I want to go to a different hoop. So let's say I'm using my 10 5/8 by 10 5/8. Again, I can change the distance from the design that I want the stitching to be, and also change the spacing of the stipple. If we get it really big, you can see it much better, I think, on camera. But not only do I have the automatic stippling, I have automatic echo quilting. And if I wanted to use some of the designs, the patterned fills that are in my design center, I have that option as well. So there I have, I think it's 54. Yes, 54 patterned fills that I could use around my lemon. So I'm just going to touch that one and say, okay. And now there is my pattern fill. But there's always more than one way to do something. So I'm going to hit cancel. And now on my screen under edit in embroidery, you see this little flower icon. I'm going to touch that, and that's going to make me a custom shape or custom stamp that I can use in my design center. And I'm just putting a little bit of distance from the design because I want my stitching to be away from my embroidery pattern. From there, we're going down to the pocket because I want to save that. And it tells you exactly where to retrieve it from. It says recall from my design center stamp pattern list. So I'll say okay. Now I have my embroidery design up. I'm going to go to add and select my design center. And the first thing that I am doing is I'm going into where the circle and the square is at. That's my shapes or stamps. And you notice that I've got icons across the top. The first one is closed shapes, and we talked about that. The second one is additional closed shapes we could use. The third one are open shapes, meaning that they're not contained. So if I were to choose one of these, say if I chose the heart and tried to fill it in, it would fill in the whole page. The fourth icon over is my custom shapes. So there's my lemons. I'm just going to say, okay. And then I'm going to go back in here again and choose the fifth icon over, which is my hoop preference or my embroidery frame size. So let's choose that 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch square hoop, say okay, and that puts me a little parameter around there. So if I go in to choose one of my decorative fills, I can choose any of the 54 decorative fills that I want. So I'm going to choose, oh, let's see. I think I'm going to choose number 53. So it's kind of a crosshatch diamond looking shape, and I'm going to say okay. I'm just leaving it at the default color, saying okay again. And here is the tool that I need to use for my for filling in that area. So I have what's called the flood fill, or the paint bucket as we refer to it. And I'm going to touch within that square for the 10 5/8 inch by 10 5/8 inch hoop between that outline and the flower outline that I can see on my screen. And when I do, it pops up and you can now see that I have the quilting in there. So from this point, I'm going to touch next. I'm going to set my properties. And what I like to do is I like to turn the outline on a lot of times. And what that's going to do for me is it's going to eliminate a lot of jump stitches. It will create an outline around the design itself, but for this activity, I think it's going to be just fine. You have random shift. So if you wanted to distort that, that's the best way to describe random shift. You have 3 different types, and you have, I think it's 6 different modes of random shift. I'm not going to apply a random shift, but I will tell you that if you're doing a landscape type quilt and you've got like stones or something along a watered path and you want to do pebbling and you're not so good at free motion quilting, the circles that are in the patterned fills and random shift make awesome pebbles. The next thing that I'm going to change is down here, the last icon, and this is thickness. So basically it means, do I want heavier stitching or lighter stitching? I'm going to go to the lighter stitching, which is typically just a single run. Some areas may be a double run where it has to go back to path. So I'm going to say okay. And now that I've got all that set, I'm going to set it and convert it to embroidery. So there's my quilting around my lemons. And I could go ahead and stitch this. But remember, we talked about recipes, Angela?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a recipe with this one.
Yay.
So I'm going back to add. I'm going back to my design center. Go into those custom shapes. I'll pick that lemon shape once again. There it is. Say okay. And now I'll go in again and choose my 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch hoop and say okay. We'll go back into those decorative fills. This time I'll select a different color. I think it was fill number 53. So we'll scroll to that, say okay, and use my flood fill or paint bucket and fill in there. Now here's where I made changes. And I know you can't see it because I've got it kind of hidden off camera, but I'll pull up my cheat sheet. I keep a notepad and a pen by my machine. So whenever I'm playing with those recipes, I've written my recipe down on a notepad. So when I say next and set my parameters for my stitches, for this one, I'm going to go in and change that size to 200% or the maximum that it will go and say okay. I turned my outline on again and I turned the thickness to the thin line or the single run, say okay, and this is where the magic happens. Watch when I set it and convert it to embroidery. So now I have an entirely different looking fill.
I love that. That is what we call a great recipe. You know, every time you show this and you change these around a little bit, it's amazing. I love that look.
So let's see if we can see this on camera.
Oh, wow. I love that. The two different colors, it's beautiful.
The two different colors. So I've got that recipe. I've got a couple of others that I can show you, but we'll just go back home and we'll give out recipes. And that way, then everybody can go back and watch the replay and write it or try it for themselves. So let's go into my design center. I'm just going to bring up my 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch hoop. And my next recipe, I am going to use, pattern fill number 42, 42. And I'm going to fill that hoop in, go to next. Again, I'll turn my outline on. I'll turn the thickness to thin, and I will set that to embroidery. We're going to add from my design center, go into the shapes or stamps, grab our 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch hoop. We're going to grab that same pattern fill, and we're going to, so it was 42, 42. I'm going to change the color, fill my hoop, go to next so I can make some changes. This time I'm taking the size down to 50% and say okay. Again, I'll turn the outline on, change the thickness to thin, and set it to embroidery and watch this magic. Isn't that pretty cool?
That's very cool. Recipe Number 2 in the books.
So here is what that looks like stitched out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I stitched Tinkerbell and made the custom shape with her. My younger sister's birthday is coming up next month, so it will be perfect for her birthday.
I love that. That's beautiful. Is that Tinkerbell built into the Avenir?
It is in the Disney section.
All right.
So here is another one.
Oh, recipe number 3 for the day, in case you're not counting.
This is recipe number 4.
Oh, these are gorgeous.
So I can probably go in and just type out in the comments maybe the pattern fill number, and then what I did. So the first one I did it 100%. The second one I did it 50%. So I could go 042, 100%, 042, 50%. Recipe 1. Then let's go home and we're going to make another recipe. This one, I'm going to grab the hoop again. I'm going to go select pattern fill number 41. Say okay. Okay again. Use my flood fill it in. Next. I'm leaving it at 100%. I'm turning my outline on. I'm changing the thickness to thin. And I set it. In embroidery, I'm going to go to add, back to my design center, repeat the process, grab that same 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch hoop, go into my decorative fills, select select pattern fill 41 again, change the color. I'm going to fill my hoop, go to next. Again, I'm leaving it at 100%, but this time I'm changing the direction and I'm making it at 90 degrees. So I say, okay. I've turned the outline on, change the thickness to thin, and I set it. So to me, that gave that star or flower look that I had shown in I think it was this one right here. Let me get it up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous.
So isn't that cool? I mean, so it just changes the looks of the pattern fills that we have. So I was playing when I was working at a quilt show recently. We were stitching on the Avenir at the quilt show, and I stitched this. Let's get it back a little ways.
Oh, look at that flower. Go your way just a little bit. There you go. Oh, that's beautiful.
But that is the circles.
Oh, yeah. Now it's focusing.
One at
Look
100%, one at 50%.
You said one at 100% and one at 50?
Yes.
That's beautiful.
So that was fun to do. But another thing that I like to do with it is I like to make lace.
Oh, I love lace. Now you're talking even more up my side.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go back to my full facing camera.
Okay. I'll wait till she switches back. Again, we are live in the chat today, so leave your comments, leave your questions, even if you're watching the replay, because Brother Social will send those questions on to us over to Kathy. And I would love to know what's your favorite recipe so far. Number 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know. I like them all. I like them all. There you are, Kathy. I got you back.
Hi. So to make lace, and I'm going to put this on, let's see if I put it on top of the pink.
Ooh, is that tulle?
It is tulle. It's just that inexpensive, polyester bridal tulle. So what I do is I take a layer of water soluble, a layer of the tulle, and another layer of the water soluble. So I've got 3 layers, and I stitch my design. Then when it's rinsed out, there's my lace.
That's beautiful.
So what I'm thinking I may do with some is, 4th of July is coming up again, and I love to make the little baby girls dresses, but how cute would that be to make a lace bodice
Oh,
on a
yeah.
dress for them for 4th of July?
And you don't need much of the fabric either. And the wash away, it just washes away. I mean, it just disappears. Yeah. It's so simple. If you've never tried it, you have to add it to your must try list for sure.
For sure. But what I used it for was I made a lace covered composition book cover.
Oh, that's cute.
So here's a square that I had tucked inside. This is an offcut, but I won't get rid of it. I'll use it for something. Maybe make a small mini composition book cover. So that's another thing that I like to do with the patterned fills. In my design center, I made a little hanging to put on my sewing room door.
Oh, look at how cute that is. Is that out of lace?
No, this is not out of lace. It's just on fabric.
Okay.
So what I did was I used those shapes and I created an oval. Then I made another oval. You can see I chose for my line type because I have all kinds of different line types that I can choose from. And we can go back to the screen and I can show you all them. But this is the candle wicking stitch. I used a couple of little rosebuds that are built in to the machine or in my embroidery designs. And then this is just one of the built-in fonts.
I love those. Is that one of the new fonts? I think there's something similar. I just made something out of. I love the new fonts and the font preview because you can see what your stitches are going to look like in advance. I love that. That looks great.
That's what I love about the font preview. So I just leave it on all the time so that I know, so that I know what I'm getting before I have to start, typing out whatever it is I'm going to use. But this is just going to hang right on my sewing room door because this is my home sew home, this little room here. But I've got some other things to share. This was from when we originally did the recipes. And I want to say it was during COVID lockdown, right around Christmas time. Does that sound about right?
Yes, because there were so many fun things for that whole December. You were on so many times. It was almost like the feature of the show.
Well, we were doing, I think, the 1 week leading up to Christmas. Educators were on every single day. And I just popped in at the beginning and shared my recipe of the day.
Yep, that's what it was. And you can go back and watch those episodes on Brother Sew's YouTube channel. Oh, you have it with you. There
so
you
what
go.
I did with my stitch outs is I like to trim them up. And then I butt the blocks that I've stitched out together zigzag them. So I've kind of done a quilt as you go quilt, but instead of sewing sashing, I put a solid backing fabric on it, and I use grosgrain ribbon
Oh, great idea.
to make sashing. But here are some of the ones on the first row. Here's the second row.
Oh, there's my favorite, the fish, of course, the fish.
And then there's bricks, I think. And then this is the kind of, I call it the rounded corner square. And then the next one.
Wow, I love those. We're all waiting for you to write a book, Kathy. We want Kathy's recipe book. Oh, look at that one in the middle.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, that's beautiful. And
so
these are changing the dimensions a little bit using the same one. They're absolutely gorgeous.
So there's 12 here. Plus I did, what did I say, 5 more? Let me find my little notes. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see though on my notepad, there's one I started with and then scratched it out because it didn't work.
Oh wait, you have those too? I have those every once in a while. The ones that are like, oh, this doesn't look good as I thought it looked. So we're happy to hear that.
So that recipe went by the wayside. But you know, it's fun playing with them all. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus the 12. That's 17 to add to the 54 that are already in there.
Wow.
And that's just a drop in the bucket. I want to see everybody else's recipes is what I want to see.
I know. So by the way, if you have My Design Center and you go play a little bit, play with these different dimensions, make your own recipe, drop it on social media, especially if you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, you can tag Brother Sews, and they love to see what you're working on. And I always go see what is tagged with Brother Sews as well, so I can see it as well. You can tag me. I'll pass it to Kathy. This is a lot of fun. Or when you go to a show, bring the samples with you so we can compare. Kathy, this has been so much fun. I love these recipes. I love them.
Thanks. I do too. I just love My Design Center because, like I said, it's my little sandbox that I like to play in.
Yeah.
So,
do you know what I really like? Well, there's a lot of things I like about the Avenir, but you could always use a mouse, but now you can use a wireless mouse. So I always have a wireless mouse with me in my laptop bag, or now I just have one sitting right next to the machine, because when you were drawing that line, sometimes when I draw, my hand is not as steady when I'm holding it up like this, but I'm used to using a mouse. So now I can just grab my wireless mouse, draw in My Design Center. For me, it's so much faster if that's what you like to do. So now you have both options.
well, I don't know if you can tell, but my table here is not quite big enough. Well, I mean, it's big enough for the machine, but there's not a lot of space to the side. So hubby is going to get this table and I'm going to get a new one that's a little bit longer.
Nice.
Set my machine on and then I'll be able to use my mouse because I'll have some extra real estate.
That's a great idea. I have an idea for anyone who does have a table that fits your Avenir, but you don't have room for the mouse pad. I went to a store. It wasn't a brother dealer, but it was a store where you can buy inexpensive things for your house. And I found a little itsy bitsy coffee. I think it's like maybe for plants. I don't know. It's perfect for a coffee cup, but it's only maybe this big, like not even 12 by 12. And it's the perfect height. So I can use the mouse right there or put my coffee on. It's a twofer.
Well, maybe I'll have to look for that. That would be less expensive than replacing this cabinet that's less than 6 months old, or that table.
I know, in case you guys have missed it, Kathy's studio looks amazing. She's been renovating for like a year. I love it. It looks wonderful. So any questions, drop them in the chat. I will be sure to check those, share what you're working on. I'll try to get a picture of Kathy's post-it and I'll put it on angelawolf.com. Go on under events. You can see all of the live shows, the schedule coming up. Go back to YouTube, watch the replays. So we got to take a photo of that one. That is awesome. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for all your inspiration. This is amazing. And I don't know which one's my favorite. I'll wait and read everybody's comments.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It will. All right. So to end this, let me see what I got on here real quick. I always love these great videos that Brother has done. How about some of the built-in, the font preview. I'll just give you a little peek at that font preview. Kathy, until next time, and everybody else, Brother Sewing fans, see you next week. Well, actually, it's Tuesday. See you on Thursday. Bye.
Bye.